Sahanau punattu sahaveryam karavavahai tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad-pada Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashya-kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha. So we have seen Tattva Upadeshe Anyatha hi amukhe sadatma tattva upadeshe ahamuktam asmeti vidyatiti vad sampanmatramidam anitya phalam syat. Up to this we have seen. So, the word sat, if it really meant something inert, if the word sat really meant the inert pradhanam, and then if the Shruti said the what, that sat, then the chetanam would be identifying with achetanam, the inert, would become like upasana. It is an error, but deliberately if you identify, it would be like upasana. Like what? Ahamuktam asmi, identifying oneself with breath. Identifying one's existence, a conscious existence. Identifying one's being, the conscious being, with something inert would be an error in thinking, plus deliberately if you do it, then it would be a kind of an upasana. Even if you do it with great prayer in your mind, but still the result will be anityam phalam syat. Tatra mokshopadeshaha na upapadyate. That cannot amount. May you look upon yourself as the breath cannot amount to be a message for moksha. May you look upon, may you meditate upon the self as the breath is a upasana paravakyam. It is a statement of worship, all right, meditation, all right. It cannot be an upadesha, it cannot be an unfoldment of moksha. In that manner, the word, the sat, the inert, the word, the sat, the inert would be a wrong statement. And if somebody did identify oneself with the sat, with the inert, in fact, it would only do him harm. And if you do it with a prayer in your mind, etc., it would still be an upasanam. It would have only anitya phalam. It would be adhyasarupam, and therefore the word sat never means inert. Sat means chetanam. Sat can't mean inert for the reasons given above. Tatra mokshopadeshaha na upapadyeta. It can't be tenable. Whereas the context in which the sat upadesha is given is mokshopadesha. Because the 6th chapter of Chandogya Upanishad is a moksha prakaranam. Tasya tavadeva chiram atha sampatse. These vakyas means what? It's a moksha prakaranam. A man who understands himself to be the sat is there as a jiva, looking like a jiva, as long as his prarabdha allows. Afterwards becomes liberated. A wise man is liberated as the body falls off. He is liberated in the sense he has no punarjanma, that is unfoldment. It is not meant to show two kinds of moksha. A person who is free, alive, also becomes liberated after the fall of the body. Videha mukti is a word that is used. The phrase liberation after the body, this particular phrase liberation after the body called videha mukti is not meant to show that there are two kinds of mukti called jivan mukti and videha mukti. It is meant to show that a man who has mukti has no punarjanma. Punarjanma pratishedha. A man who is freed is liberated. Therefore, the Chandogya, the 6th chapter of the Chandogya Shruti is clearly the context of moksha. It is moksha prakaranam. It is not karma prakaranam nor upasana prakaranam. It is moksha prakaranam. Therefore, the 6th chapter of Chandogya Upanishad is only talking about the moksha that is to be accomplished by a human being. And in that context, the word sat is used. And in such a context, if the word sat is used, it has to literally mean something conscious. It can't really literally mean something inert. Its mukhyartha can't be jadam, its mukhyartha is only chetanam. बहुत बड़ा मीमांसा है जी. तस्मात् therefore न सत अणिमणि आत्म शब्दस्य गौणत्वम्. Therefore आत्म शब्दस्य, the word atma means the sat, means the subtlest, and that is its literal sense, not figurative sense. The word Atma, its literal sense is the source and which is the subtlest. Self means the source of everything and which is the subtlest. Therefore, Atma Shabda means Chetanam, and it is in the sense of that Sat, the subtlest. It's all really the Mukhyartha. The Mukhyartha. You may ask a question, the word Atma can mean Chetanam, but the word Sat, how does it mean Chetana? I say, Sat means the source, that's all, Karanamiti. The Mukhyartha of the Sat is the Karanam. But in the context, overall context, it means only Chetanam is the source, because the conscious Swetaketu, the student is a conscious being, he is not inert. His body may be inert, but he is not, the one who is hearing is not inert. You see, the body is inert, all right, but the person who is hearing is not inert. The one who is hearing is not inert. So if the person who is hearing is a conscious being, and then to him the teaching is given, hey, thou art the Sat. If the conscious person is told thou art the Sat, then definitely the word Sat also should mean Chetanam. If the word Sat meant Jadam, and then if you told Shvetaketu, he is a conscious being, thou art the Sat, the Jadam. Number one, it is wrong. Number two, it's a mischief. Andha Golangula Nyaya. Bhagavan has already said. Andha Golangula Nyaya means, one is committing a mistake, the other is committing a mischief. If somebody is wrong, you can excuse. If somebody is mischievous, then you can't excuse. So if you tell somebody, who is blind, and then you tell him, hey, you want to go back to your village? Here is a bull. Hold on to its tail and don't leave it. And then it will take you to your village. And this man has faith in your words and he doesn't leave and he holds on, and then he was battered and bruised and dragged. The wild bull runs and he doesn't leave. This is what is called Antha Go Langula Nyaya. Adi. Antha means a blind man. Go, a cow. Langula means tail. Nyaya means this method. Just as a blind man is told to hold on to the tail of a wild bull to reach back his village. And Shastra saying the what, the source, the inert, the what, the sat, the inert, saying this is exactly like saying to a blind man to hold on to the tail of a wild bull. Is it an error or a mischief? Oh. Then you can't have Shraddha in Shastra. You can trust a man who unwittingly makes a mistake in his thinking. We all make mistakes. Making mistakes don't make us eschewable. But committing a mischief is different. Law of karma functions there. Law of karma doesn't function when you make a mistake. Errors don't invoke law of karma. Errors don't make, errors in thinking, errors in judgment. I'm not talking about wrong actions, but erroneous judgment. You see, if I see the rope for a snake and then I suffer, it is not because of law of karma, understand? That is the loss of the error. Law of karma also falls inside the error. An error in judgment may make me suffer, but it doesn't invoke law of karma. But when you commit a mischief, like Andagolangul Nyaya, the law of karma invoked. The law of karma gets invoked in the life of that person. The law becomes conscious of that individual. The law of karma becomes conscious of that individual suddenly when he makes a mischief. A law ignores an individual. A law is just, leaves a person alone if he is following the vihitam. He is doing his duties and he goes about his life. Like our Indian constitution, they are not going to be after your blood. They don't spy on you if you live a simple, normal life. But supposing you start doing some abnormal, extraordinary things, then the law keeps a watch. And God's law also comes alive. It gets invoked when you commit a mischief. I took so much of time because this is also important to understand. Because error in judgment doesn't make us a sinner. Error in judgment doesn't make us a sinner. It may make us suffer, that's a different. These are the consequences of errors. It's not sin. If I mistake the rope for a snake, it's not a sin, it's an error. But if I kill a snake that is there, which is not harming me, it is living its life, and if I go after it and kill it, that's a sin. Sins invoke Law of karma. Anyway, now coming back to our original topic. The original topic is the word Atma literally means the Sat, the source as well as the subtlest, these two things. Three connotations are there. They all mean the same. Atma, the self, means Chetanam. And in the context of, in the eyes of the Shruti, it means the source. And in the eyes of the Shruti and Anubhava, it means the subtlest. Atma means the conscious, the subtlest, the source. Is the literal meaning of the word Atma. When we know this is a word, you see, we have this particular word, the whole Vedic culture, it's saturated with the word Atma. Our whole, this Indian culture is saturated with the word Atma. For everything Atma, it's a Punyatma. Supposing a person has nice kheer and is able to digest, then what do you say? The Punyatma. Punyatma. You don't call him anything to Punyatma. He is able to enjoy and then digest, and by 4 o'clock he feels hungry, means he is Punyatma. See? And therefore, and everything, he is a Papatma. He is a Punyakarma, Papkarma, Punyasthan, Apasthan, Tirthasthan, Punyasthan, Punyadesh, Punyaprant, Punyakarma, Punyashravana Kirtanam. And all these things are one Atma Shabda. Therefore, the word Atma straight away means Chetanam. On reflection means the source. On reflection means the subtlest. But straight away Atma means Chetanam. This is over. Purvapakshi gave an example, You have to listen to this, See, sometimes people give some unfair examples. Purvapakshi said, a king refers to his own servant, this is myself, because he does everything for me. He does errands for me, he runs errands for me. All that I am supposed to do, he does. Therefore, he is like me. He is me. Therefore, when he says, Mama Atma, this is myself, he is not literally yourself, but he is only figuratively yourself, not literally yourself. He is other than you. Figuratively yourself. Figuratively in the sense what? Attitude. It's an attitude. Like when you say this is my son, this is myself, this is my heartbeat, vagera, vagera. This is myself. It is more an attitude than a fact. You can't be literally myself. I look upon him as inseparable from myself. It is a matter of attitude. And when you say something expressing that attitude, a statement of attitude sounding as though a statement of fact, is what is called Gauna Prayoga, a figurative expression. But even when I refer to my servant that it is myself, it can't be myself. Whereas the Purvapakshi says, just as the king can say this is myself, you can also refer to the inert Sat as Atma, the self. The non-myself can be referred to as myself. Then the non-Chetanam can be referred to as Chetanam Atma. This particular example the Purvapaksha gave, for which now the Siddhanti answers. My dear, one logic you have to remember. What is evident you can't question. Argument comes only when it is not seen. We do see Bhrityetu Swami Bhritya Bhedasya. When it comes to a master and a servant, the difference between the master and the servant is very clear. The difference between the master and the servant is very clear. The master is not the servant is not the master. There, here, the master can say, this is myself. The master can say, this is myself. A gauna prayoga, it can't be mukhya prayoga. Vrityetu swami vritya bhedasya pratyakshatvat, being seen. The difference between two individuals is seen. Upapannaha is tenable. Gaunaha atma shabdaha. The word atma can be used in a figurative sense. Mama atma bhadrasenaha iti. This is myself. You can refer to your servant as yourself in a figurative sense, but you can't refer to your servant as yourself literally. Listen to this point. You can refer to your servant as yourself figuratively, but you can't refer to your servant as yourself literally. You can refer to your child's looks as the looks of the moon. My son is Chandrama. My son is a full moon. Figuratively or literally? Figuratively. That figurative expression is what is called Gauna Prayoga. Pick up that whole term. Prayoga means usage. Gauna Prayoga means a figurative usage. But you can't make a literal Prayoga. This is myself. But you can't refer to the inert. You can't refer to the inert pradhanam with the word atma in a figurative sense. Why? Because the word Atma literally means the Chetanam, and the word Jadam literally means the inert. And if you have to refer to the objects, you use the words which carry their literal sense. You see, every object has got a literal word. Every object has a word. Every object has a word, and that word carries the literal, that object has the literal sense. Therefore, when we use the word Atma, it should mean nothing but Chetanam. It should mean nothing but Chetanam. Can't mean inert, therefore. And especially Shabda Pramana, where words alone are meant to convey, only words can convey, the truth is conveyed only by Shabda Pramanam, where only the Shastram conveys that when it comes to the topic which is conveyed only by the Shastram, no other faculty, there you cannot just use the words in their figurative sense. We have to use the words in their literal sense, keeping in view also, of course, the context, etc. We have to take into account so many factors. And therefore, Bhrityetu Swami Bhritya Bhedasya Pratyakshatvad Uppannaha Gaunaha Atma Shabdaha Mamatma Bhadrasena. Apicha, further. क्वचित कहीं गौणः शब्दः दृष्टः इति. At some places in the Shastram we do use figurative expressions. Here and there in the scripture, we do use figurative expressions. Even in day-to-day life also, we do become figurative. आजकल मैं खाली हूँ. What is it? Literal or figurative? आजकल मेरा जेब खाली है. That is what I mean. आजकल हमारा जेब खाली means I don't have any money. It's not literally. It's a figurative. Oh, he is a dead person. Don't call him he is a dead person. What does it mean? Figurative. In the Shastram also, as per the context, in certain contexts we do use words in a figurative sense. Kvachit gaunaha shabdaha drishtaha. Because the figurative expressions are used somewhere here and there in the scripture, na etavata, it doesn't mean by this. Itni matra se ye nahi ho sakta hai. Shabda pramana ke arthe, in the matter of that reality for which the shabda alone is the pramana. The senses can't convey the truth. Only the words of the scriptures are meant to convey to me the truth, which is not an object of my senses, but which is the very subject behind all the senses. The aparoksham. The aparoksham is not conveyed by the senses. The aparoksham is talked to me, talked about to me by the words. Therefore, the Shabda Pramanam, when it comes to the reality which is the topic only of the Shabda, in such a context, Shabda Pramana ke arthe, Gauni Kalpana, to resort to figurative expressions at crucial junctures, Nanyaya, is not fair, is not logical. It's not fair to resort to figurative expressions at crucial times in the matter of the reality. In the matter of the reality which is the topic only of Shabda Pramana. Anyaya. Why? Sarvatra anashvasa prasanga. Man would lose faith in Shabda. You see, what is Gauna? You say something, and I don't mean literally, but I mean. It means I don't mean it. That means I keep on talking, I really don't mean what they mean. I use the words and I don't mean what they literally mean. So gadbad ho gaya na. I use the words and I don't mean what they literally mean. And if that is the approach that I adopt, then will you have faith in me? No. Sarvatra. Anashvasa. Vishwas nahi. There would be a contingency of causing loss of faith in the whole Shabda Pramana. Not only causing loss of faith, what Bhashyakara means is such words would be untrustworthy. Words using words but not meaning what they are meant to mean. Using words and not meaning what they are meant to mean. The one who uses such words would be untrustworthy. Shastram would be untrustworthy. Parameshwara would be untrustworthy. The whole tradition would be untrustworthy. You see, therefore, the word Atma literally means Chetanam. And the word Sat literally means the source, the subtlest, and Chetanam. That is the Vakya. Thou art Sat. Thou, the Chetanam, is Sat. Sauda. Chetanam is Sat. That means Sat is Chetanam. Chetanam is Sat. Gauni Kalpana Nyaya Sarvatra Anashwasa Prasanga. Yattu Uktam. Now the Siddhanta says, hey, you said something before. He tells the Purva Pakshi, you told me something before. What is that? Yattu Uktam. What was said by you? Chetana Achetana Yoho. In the sense of both the Chetanam and Achetana. Sadharanaha, common. Atma Shabdaha. The word Atma literally means both conscious and inert. Purva Pakshi said. You have to hear this. The Purva Pakshi said this word Atma can literally mean Chetanam, can literally mean also Achetanam. Yattu uktam chetana achetana yoh sadharanaha atma shabdaha. Like kradu jvalana yoriva. And the Purva Pakshi gave the example. Like when we say fire, it has one literal sense, the fire, the hot. Another literal sense, the ritual, the kratu. Jyoti Shabda can literally mean fire. Jyoti Shabda can literally mean a ritual. This is what the Purva Pakshi thinks. So just as the word Jyoti can literally mean fire, can also literally mean the ritual. Similarly, the word Atma can literally mean the Chetanam, can also literally mean as inert. This is what you said, hey Purva Pakshi. Yattu uktam chetana chetanayoh sadharana atma shabda kradujvalanayoreva jyoti shabdaha iti. As regards that argument of yours, here is my answer. Tanna. That argument of yours is wrong, absolutely wrong. You haven't done the proper study. Why? Because anekarthatvasya anyayatva. Every word has only one literal sense. Every word has only one literal sense, though you may use it in other senses figuratively, as per some context, etc. But the literal sense, every word carries only one literal sense. And now here Bhashikara says, each word having more than one literal sense is anyayatva, is absolutely unfair, illogical, untenable, unacceptable. Because that is not how the language is born, that is not how the language is used. Anyayatva. Tasmat, therefore, Chetana Vishayaha eva Mukhyaha Atma Shabdaha. Therefore, the word Atma carries only one sense, one literal sense, and that literal sense is the conscious. The word Atma does not carry another literal sense called the Jadam. Atma literally means only one thing. Atma literally means only the conscious. Atma does not literally mean something inert. Tasmat chetana vishayaha eva mukhyaha atma shabdaha. Chetanatva upacharad bhutadishu prayujyate. But we use the word Chetanam, we use the word Atma. Remember, the word Atma literally means only one thing, the Chetanam. But sometimes we use the same Atma Shabda in the sense of the body. Dehatma, Bhutatma, Indriyatma, Antahkaranatma, that is Shuddhatma. When a person's mind is pure, we call him Shuddhatma. Here Atma means Antahkaranam. Shuddhatma, Bhutatma, Pretatma. These are all, even though the word sometimes, this word Atma, we do use in the sense of something inert. And when we use the word Atma in the sense of something inert, it is not Mukhya Prayoga, it is Upachara. Upachara. Upachara means as though. Because it is taken to be Chetanam, we call it Chetanam. Man takes himself, the Chetanam, to be the body, therefore we call it as Bhutatma. In fact, in this world, any inert thing can be referred to Atma. Any inert thing can be referred to Atma because it is the Chetanam that is seen as the Jadam. It is the Chetanam that is seen as the Jadam, and therefore we can use the word. But it cannot be Mukhya Prayoga. It is using the word Atma in the sense of the Jadam. Using the word Atma in the sense of the Jadam has to be a figurative expression, Upachara, but not literal. It's not Mukhya Prayoga. The word Atma literally means the unnegatable Chetanam, free from any trace of inertness in it. It means a conscious being free from any trace of inertness in it. That alone is the Mukhya Prayoga, not. And therefore here he says, well sir, the aneka tasmat chetana vishayaha eva mukhya atma shabdaha chetanatva upacharat bhutadishu prayujyate. In elements also we use the word Atma. Prayujyate. Bhutatma, Indriyatma iti cha. Bhutatma, Indriyatma. The body can be called Bhutatma. Means what? It is a self in the form of the elements. It is a self in the form of, it is a self against the senses. But the body is inert. Indriyas are inert. Antahkaranam is inert. And yet we call them Atma. Why? Because there is a vision conveyed. There is a vision conveyed. And there is a purpose in calling them Atma, because there is an error of taking the Atma to be them. An individual takes the Chetanam for the Deha, Chetanam for the Indriyas. The very Atma is perceived, the Atma is equated with the Deha, and therefore, keeping in view that error, the Shruti can say, Bhutatma, Indriyatma, Pranatma, understand? Pranatma, Bhutatma, Indriyatma, Antahkaranatma, Punyatma, Papatma, all these things are what? Punya and Papam also is inert. But yet we use the word Punyatma, Papatma, because the Atma is mistaken, is equated with the identity of being a sinner and a good person. I look upon myself a good person and a bad person, though I am neither. Therefore, a good person is called Punyatma and the bad person is called Papatma. This itself does not mean there is a vision conveyed there. Even though we are using the word Atma for all these inert things, it doesn't mean the word Atma literally means them. It means literally the word Atma means only the Chetanam. Therefore, Tasmat Chetana Vishayaha eva Mukhyaha Atma Shabdaha Chetanatva Upacharat Bhutadishu Prayujyate Bhutatma Indriyatma Itcha Sadharanatvepi Atma Shabdasya supposing. This is called Abhyupagamavada. Abhyupagamavada means, जो आप कह रहे हैं अगर मैं मान भी लिया, that is called Abhyupagamavada. Pick up this word. जो आप कहते हैं मैं तो मानूंगा नहीं, अगर मैं मान भी लिया फिर भी आप गलत हैं. आप जो कहते हैं मैं तो वो माननीय नहीं है, that is मान्य नहीं है. It's not something that is acceptable. But even if I go by, even if I accept what you say, even then what you say is wrong. ये गड़बड़ है ना. जो आप कह रहे हैं अगर उसको मान भी लिया फिर भी आप गलत हैं, फिर भी आप गलत हैं. How? Even if we accept that the word Atma has two literal meanings called the Chetanam and Achetanam. If you say that it has got two literal meanings called the Chetanam and Jadam, that puts on your shoulder a greater responsibility in finding out which of the two is the thing to be taken, which of the two meanings to be taken in a given context. Did you look into the context? Especially when the word has got two meanings, then you are in real trouble because you have to think more to find out exactly which is the sense I should take. If you think it has got literal sense, this is called Abhyupagamavada. Even if we accept that the word Atma has got two meanings called Chetanam and Achetanam, and then you are talking about the source of the universe, and that source you are referring to, you are talking to Shvetaketu the Chetanam, you are talking to Shvetaketu the Chetanam, and telling him, thou art that source. If this is the context, this is the Mokshopadesha, not Karmopadesha, it's a Mokshopadesha. It's not building up an attitude, it is making a statement of a reality. It is not a statement of attitude. It's like Ganga is Pavitram means what? May you look upon it. That's called Upasana. Ganga is pure is not a statement of fact. Ganga is pure means may you look upon Ganga as Pavitram. This is called a statement of upasana. It is asking you to build a certain attitude towards something. It's upasana. Matru Devo Bhava. Mother is divine means look upon her. Look upon her as divine. Look upon Father as divine. Look upon the teacher as divine and Atithi as divine. It is not a statement of fact. Statement of fact is a different thing. It's a statement of upasana. In that manner, this conscious being, the Shvetaketu, is not being told by Uddalaka that may you look upon yourself as the source. He is saying thou art the source. Thou art the source is different from thou. May thou look upon thyself as the source. ये आपको देखना जरूरी है. Here you have to rise to the occasion to see the glory of the Shastra. Shastra is not saying, may thou look upon thyself as the source. It says, thou art the source, whether you like it or not, whether you understand it or not. That is the vision of the Shruti stated. So, if this is the context Mokshopadesha, then in that context, the word Atma cannot mean Jadam, even though it may mean Jadam otherwise. It may mean Chetanam as well as Jadam. If it has two meanings, then you have to be very careful which meaning has to be taken in a given context. And here the context is like this, that Sat is downward. If the Sat, you can't use the word Sat, that, you can't say that inert downward. You can say that unlimited consciousness downward, I can say. That unlimited source, the conscious, that unlimited conscious being, the what I can say to Swetaketu, but I can't say that inert, the what. That can't be the interpretation. And therefore here Bhashyakara says, even if we accept that the word Atma has got two meanings, Chetanam and Achetanam, even then, how did you ignore the context? Sadharanatvepi Atma Shabdasya, even if the word Atma carries two meanings, even if the Atma carried, even if it were to carry according to you two meanings, Sadharanatvepi Atma Shabdasya, na prakaranam upapadam va kinchit. Either you have to look into the context, or you have to look into the prefix upapadam. Upapada means, in Sanskrit we have the prefix, like Gamanam means going, Agamanam, coming. That is a kind of a prefix. But there are certain upapadas, words. You see. That prefix also sometimes, so Gamana means going, Agamanam means, again you can't say going, Agamanam means coming, because that prefix, the root is the same for going as well as coming. For going we Gamanam, for coming also Gamanam, but we differentiate it by fixing A to Gamanam. That is called Upapadam or the Upasarga. Don't worry about it. Upapada or Upasarga, without taking into account the context, or without looking into the prefixes, if there are any, without taking into account that. Na prakaranam upapadam va kinchit nishchayakam. Sometimes when proposing a word has got two literal meanings, then which meaning has to be taken is decided by the context, not by you. You don't determine the sense. In fact, you don't determine the meaning at all. Context determines the meaning. If there is a problem, if you think that it has two words, or upapadam determines that very grammar also determines. Therefore here Bhagavan says, na prakaranam upapadam va kinchit nishchayakam antarena, without looking into the context or the prefix, which does the nishchaya, which determines the meaning. Without that, anyatara vriddhita, accepting any of the two meanings, just accepting, going by anyatara vriddhita, taking any of the two meanings blindly, na nirdharayatum shakyate, it is not possible which of the two meanings has to be taken. Anyatara vriddhita nirdharayatum na shakyate, which of the two meanings I should accept, I can't determine unless I look into the context or the grammatical structure, which though I have to fall back on. This is called Abhyupagamavada, but such problems are not there. Why? Because every word, Atma Shabda, literally means only Chetanam. Sat literally means only the source. It can't have, Sat doesn't mean Srishti. Sat means the source. Ekam Sat, one source. Srishti may be many. Ekam Sat. Source is one. Bhagavan is one. Say theologically, we say Bhagavan to ek hi hoga. And that is said by the Shastram, Sat is Ekam. Ekam Sat. Only one. So the word Sat has got only one literal meaning. The word Sat has got. Listen. The word Sat has only one literal meaning, and that is the source of the universe. But why do we call? Shastram calls this world also Sat. Why? Because that is taken as Sat. That's called Upachara. I look upon this world as the Sat, the reality. That is because the Jiva looks upon, without knowing the real source, without knowing the real reality, I look upon the world as the reality. Therefore the Shruti also restates my vision. My vision is that this world is real. My vision is that this world is real. Shastra restates, hey, this is what you think. Not just because it makes a reference to what I think, it is not to be taken as its reference, its vision. Its reference to my vision is not to be interpreted as its vision. This is called Anuvada. ये जो सत्य दुनिया है, जब कहते हैं, when the Shruti says, ये जो सत्य दुनिया है, इसका एक source है. It doesn't mean ये जो सत्य दुनिया है is not its vision. Meaning this dunya that you look upon as real, as a source, which is the Sat. Therefore it does the Anuvada, meaning it first refers to what I think. That reference to my thinking, it's referring to my thinking, is called Anuvada. Shastra's reference to universal human thinking. How does this Jiva think? Referring to Jiva's thinking is called Anuvada. Having done the Anuvada, it does the Pratipadanam. Then what is the right? That's called Pratipadanam. In order to do Pratipadanam, you have to do Anuvada. ये जो आप जल देख रहे हैं, the water that you are seeing here, do you know, this water is all rooted in sand. This pool of water that you are seeing is born of sand, sustained by sand, shall go back unto sand, and therefore it is inseparable from sand. Therefore it is sand. That is what? Pratipadanam. But when it begins, how does it begin? Anuvada. Ye jo jal hai. Ye jo jal hai, when it says, what does it mean? Ye jo jal aap dekh rahe hain, वो सैंड से आया, सैंड पर रहता है, सैंड के अंदर चले जाते. यतो वा इमानि भूतानि जायन्ते येन जातानि जीवन्ति यत् प्रयन्ति अभिसं विशन्ति. In the same manner here also, this dunya that you are seeing with reality has the Sat, and it is born of that Sat, sustained by Sat, and it shall go back unto Sat, and therefore it is non-separate from the Sat. Therefore Sat alone is, it is not. ये दुनिया है नहीं, सत ही है. सत्य ही है. And therefore, that is the Pratipadanam. Therefore here he says, now look at this line. If the word Atma, in actuality the word Atma has one literal sense, the word Sat also has one literal sense, and if you accept two literal senses, then you have a more responsibility. Then you have to look into the context. Prakaranam, Uttaravi Kapiyan. If you take into account the context, you will be less likely to make mistakes. प्रकरण को भी समझ लिया तो पूरा शास्त्र को समझ लिया. What is the context? Understanding the prakaranam is not easy. Understanding the prakaranam means understanding the context of the jiva suffering due to ignorance. The context is that his suffering is due to his ignorance. And the context is that Shvetaketu comes to Uddalaka for a solution just by hearing. That is the context. The context is that the Shvetaketu asks the question to Uddalaka, hey, is there something by knowing which everything becomes? No. Thus, if you look into the entirety of the context, you already become wise. अब तो वेदांती बन गया. उस प्रकरण को समझने में ही, उस प्रकरण को समझने in its entirety, understanding the entire context, its entirety. Oh my God, has given you so many breakthroughs. And without taking into the context, if you simply say it is jadam, ऐसा नहीं होगा. Therefore, न प्रकरणम उपपदम वा किंचित निश्चायकमंतरेण अन्यतर वृत्तिता निर्धारयितुं न शक्यते. न च अत्र अचेतनस्य निश्चायकम किंचित कारणमस्ति. Very beautiful. There is neither the context. There is neither the context nor the upapadam ready to determine the sense of the word Atma as the jadam. There is neither the context nor a prefix. Neither the context is in favor of interpreting the word Atma as jadam, nor the grammar is in favor of interpreting the word Atma as jadam. Na cha atra acetanasya nischayakam, determining it to be inert. Na kinchit karanamasti, there is no reason. There is no reason means what? There is no sadhanam. There is no sadhana means neither the prakaranam nor the upadam. There is nothing that can interpret the word. There is nothing that can facilitate the interpretation, prompt the interpretation of the word Atma in the sense of jadam. There is nothing. There is nothing. Achayatra acetanasya nischayakam kinchit karanamasti. Whereas there are enough reasons to interpret it in the sense of Chetana. Listen to this. Prakritam tu, the context. Look into the context. What is the context? Sat, the source. Because Shvetaketu first said, is there Father? Is there something by knowing which everything becomes known? Because he asked him, the father asked, hey, why are you feeling? Why are you looking so arrogant just because you have had your convocation and then you are a graduate? They are coming straight from Ahmedabad University and therefore, or Oxford University. It was very arrogant. He said, why do you look so arrogant, my dear child? Did you ask your teachers to teach you that by knowing which everything becomes known? And the teacher said, I don't think my teachers knew it. But what is most beautiful, this is exact. I tell you, this gives us a clue. If the father did not open the topic, Shvetaketu would remain a mediocre for life. If the father did not open the topic, hey, did you ask something by knowing which everything becomes known? If he had not asked that question, he would have remained a simple graduate for life. But curiosity was invoked. Curiosity, more than curiosity, meaning really He was really, his heart was touched, his curiosity was touched by his father's question. Hey, did you ask your teachers for that? By knowing which everything becomes known. Immediately Shvetaketu was touched in his curiosity and said, can there be such a thing? Can there be such a thing by knowing which you come to know the whole stuff? Enashrutam shrutam bhavati, amatam matam bhavati, avijñatam vijñatam bhavati. Is there such a thing? The father says yes. And he comes up with a very simple example. Ekena mritpundena sarvam mrinmayam vijñatakam sya. By knowing one clay, you know all clay pots. By knowing one gold, you know all ornaments. Yes, principle is there. That is the principle. That is the experienced principle. Then Shvetaketu immediately says, please teach me that. He becomes a student at the feet of his own father. You see, that's why you just don't know in whose heart what is. And therefore exposure is important. Unless the child is exposed, he is not touched. His potentialities also will not be really, one doesn't know, unless a person is, sometimes when you go for a music class and you discover interest, doesn't know. Otherwise it remains, because exposure becomes an excuse, a cause to, make things in heart manifest. Like even sometimes exposure to a bhajan can bring about devotion in your life. One raga you hear from somebody and then you remember it for life. Absolutely true. You saw one place that can change your whole thinking. You heard something, it can change your whole thinking. And this man just heard one sentence. He said, did you hear something? By knowing which everything becomes known. That changed his whole thinking. He became a student. He was not even talking to his father when he came back. Now he sits at his feet. Jijnasa. Therefore, that is the context. Therefore, what is the context? Sat. What else is it? Ikshitra Chetanam. That is the context. Talking about the source, because the Shruti says, Sadeva Som Idamagrasid, when the teaching begins, this whole universe, before it was born, was Sat, and that Sat saw and created the world. That means the context is the source, which is a seer. The context is the Sat, which is the seer, Ikshitru. And who is the student? This is called Prakaranam. Now listen, this is the Prakaranam. Sat, the seer, is the context, the topic. Whom are you talking? Shvetaketu. And that also said, Sannihitas Chetanaha Shvetaketu. And the one to whom you are talking this Prakaranam, and the one to whom you are talking this context, this particular Sat, is a conscious individual. The one to whom you are talking is conscious, and the Sat that is stated to be there is also Chetanam. This is the context. If that Sat is interpreted, that Ikshitru, if it is not taken as Mukhya, Sat as the seer, if it is not taken as literal, and if it is taken as figurative, then it would mean Jadam, and you can't tell Shvetaketu thou art not Sat. Therefore, when the Shruti says Sat saw, it means literal. Sat was conscious, it means literal. We are not talking about the act of seeing, that's not the thing. The Sat is a seer. The Sat is a seer means he's a conscious being. Sat is a conscious being. This is the context. And it's better that you see the context and then decide which sense we have to follow. even accepting it has two meanings. But my argument stands that Atma Shabda has only one meaning, and that is Chetanam. But if you are insistent, it has two meanings. All right, even if we accept that it's two meanings, even then it's necessary for you to take into account context. Then continue. We'll continue it. Om Purnamadaha Purnavidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om.